시작하자. 토끼오. 미세다. 쿠알라룸푸르. 이탈리아. 미쓰비시 엘렉트릭.
The sport truck. New Mitsubishi Triton.
Drive at Earth Mitsubishi Motors.
Let's enjoy Japan.
Wonderful.
I knew you'd like this.
You know me so well. Where to next?
Golf,
Wonderful.
Japanese garden,
That's wonderful too.
onsen with a Fujisan view.
Wonderful.
Let's go then.
いらっしゃいませ. Wonderful.
Incredible.
Smiles ahead. Seibu Group.
Welcome to Channel Japan. I'm Mai Denizu.
And I'm Makiko Tsuda.
Every week, we bring you the freshest information out of Japan from our studio here in Tokyo.
From the economy to culture and even food, if you want to find out what's happening in Japan right now, this is where you'll find it.
These are topics for today.
In Executive Insight, the car maker's strategy to crack emerging markets.
From World Business Satellite, turning spare time into gold.
Also from World Business Satellite, gearing Japanese medical technologies for the world market.
And in Takumi, extremely small but powerful bubbles. So first up is Executive Insight. Utsuga-san, who will be hearing from today?
Yes, today we'll be having an interview with the head of a major Japanese car maker. But first I want to show you something.
Yes.
Now, Nikkei carried out a survey last November among young consumers in Asian countries, asking what they want the most in the next 3 years. And here's the results.
So holiday overseas seems to be a popular answer, as well as cars.
Yes, you're right. As you can see, a car was the top answer in the Philippines, Vietnam and Indonesia, and it also ranked second in Malaysia and Thailand and India. So it's very popular.
So there's a lot of demand for cars in Asian regions.
That certainly seems to be the case, and in 2011, 2.4 million cars were sold in the region, and that's forecast to nearly double to 4.7 million cars by 2018.
Wow. So which car maker will we be hearing from today?
Yes, today we'll be hearing from Mitsubishi Motors and its chairman Osamu Masuko. This time we had a chance to speak with the chairman about the company's growth as well as branding strategy, so take a look.
Executive Insight. Accelerating economic development across the ASEAN region is fueling growth of the car market in member countries. One company aggressively expanding in this part of the world with the hopes of capturing that demand is Mitsubishi Motors. With sales of nearly 2.1 trillion yen in the fiscal year ended March 2014, Mitsubishi Motors is ranked 7th among Japanese automakers. Its strength is in pickup trucks and SUVs. In recent years, the company has been retooling its business, such as strengthening its production system in emerging economies under the banner of Selection and Focus. Chairman Osamu Masuko shares with us his growth and branding strategy to continue to drive growth.
Among the numerous car brands out there, what do you see as your company's strength and characteristic?
For most people, the name Mitsubishi probably brings to mind a four-wheel drive vehicle, or durability, an SUV or rally car. I think that perception is strong. We believe this is a big asset that we need to treasure. So our basic policy has been to focus on SUVs and vehicles in this segment, and I believe there's no need to switch direction in the future.
Under its strategy of selection and focus, Mitsubishi Motors has made SUVs central to its business. Another priority is environmental technology.
Are you also focusing on developing cars for drivers outside the core fan base of Mitsubishi Motors?
Yes. One area we're emphasizing is environmental technology. We're no longer in an age in which we can ignore the environment. It's an issue that we all have to think about. We believe we need to develop technologies that appeal to as many people as possible. Environmental technology is a field that we are putting particular focus on.
Building cars that stand out while also developing cars with mass appeal requires not only a vast amount of effort, but also investment. So, how do you balance and distribute your resources?
Driving and environmental technology may actually be seen as contradictory and incompatible. But we believe we have to achieve both. Figuring out how to incorporate as much environmental technology into driving and SUVs is the direction we're heading in right now.
Mitsubishi Motors is forecasting record profitability in the fiscal year ending March 2015. A major driver is the Asian market. Why did the company choose Asia as one of its key markets, and what are the prospects for the region?
In Asia, and in particular ASEAN, the first point is that we have a very long history, about 45 to 50 years, of doing business in individual markets. Mitsubishi Motors has a strong brand image relative to other regions. Another point is that the population is growing rapidly and the average age is young. The economic prospects are also good. Tapping into that growth will lead to our own growth. That's why we're focused on emerging markets, especially in the ASEAN region. I believe this is the correct decision under our selection and focus strategy.
Does that mean you've been developing cars specifically for Asia or for particular regions?
The car we make in Thailand has been developed with quite a big emphasis on the Thai market. That it's gained acceptance in other countries is one example of our global appeal. Right now, we export to about 140 countries from Thailand.
The Thai-made Triton is a pickup truck, which is also one of the vehicle categories the company has chosen to focus on. Pickup trucks have a large cargo area or bed in the back. As they have a wide range of uses, not only as daily transportation but also for work and leisure, these vehicles are seeing demand continue to grow primarily in emerging markets. In Thailand, pickups account for 40% of the one-ton car category. Mitsubishi Motors is aiming to expand its market share by developing vehicles that meet the demands of consumers in Asia.
In Thailand, pickup trucks are under a preferential tax scheme, and the category has a very strong recognition. With Thailand at the center, there's a big market in the ASEAN region. Our pickup is also used widely across the world, including Australia, the Middle East, and Europe. So we want to put our efforts into making pickup trucks in Thailand, another model in the Philippines, if possible a passenger car, and an MPV-type vehicle in Indonesia. Our aim is to build up a mutually complementary production system in the ASEAN region.
In the ASEAN region, competition with European and US automakers is intensifying. What are the company's strengths in taking on rivals in Asia?
When you think about the future, the Asian market is in the sights of not only Japanese, but also European and US automakers. So competition will become fierce. In order for Japanese companies not to lose out, it's essential for them to properly understand the people of Asia. That means having a fundamental understanding that we're working together, that we're being given the opportunity to work in that country, and that people in that country are our partners. And also religion. There are Christian countries as well as Buddhist ones, and Muslim nations. Respecting such religious views or values is something I believe Japanese people can do, and it's what we've been doing for the past 40, 50 years. If we can take that into consideration while differentiating ourselves from our European and US counterparts, I believe it can become an extremely strong advantage in winning against the competition.
Mitsubishi Motors is undertaking a strategy in Asia of adapting to regional characteristics. How does it see the development of emerging economies?
Asia is a region where the standard of living will continue to rise and where people will have greater disposable incomes in the future. Will that lead you to change the characteristic of products, or will you bring in products that are selling well in other markets?
That's something we're discussing right now. Currently, cars that have been developed for emerging markets are selling well. But in mature markets, we're putting out quite a lot of cars with green technology. When emerging markets eventually join the ranks of mature markets, the demands will change, and cars that we sell in mature markets will start to sell better in what were once emerging markets. Right now, we're taking a two-track strategy, and it may appear contradictory, but we believe emerging markets won't stay that way forever, that they'll eventually become mature markets. So we're thinking of taking the cars we're developing now for mature markets to those places. We're looking at both sides. We will need to continue watching emerging and mature markets as we develop products.
Mr. Masuko says the company will develop cars for mature markets while tracking the development of emerging markets. So what is his strategy for regions such as North America and Europe?
Given the scale of our company, we don't believe it's realistic to compete with big rivals in terms of development and sales. Our philosophy is that having even one technology that can't be matched by others is the condition for survival and winning against the competition. So the key for us is to have one or more technologies that outshine rivals.
Competition in this field is quite intense in Europe as well as the US. Will your company be able to demonstrate its strength?
We call them electric motor vehicles, plug-in hybrids and EVs. We believe these cars will become one of the mainstream products of environmental technology.
Environmental technology is one area that Mitsubishi Motors has identified as its strength.
Appearance-wise, it's really big and outdoorsy.
Electric vehicles have several weaknesses. They're expensive and don't have that long a range. Also, the infrastructure hasn't been set up. To overcome those weaknesses, we built the Outlander PHEV. It has a significantly longer range than before and can still run even without the infrastructure. And it's the first SUV that incorporates environmental technology. We built this car with the aim of integrating SUV and environmental technology.
Another feature of the Outlander is that power from the driving battery can be used to run household appliances. In the event of a natural disaster or situation in which there's a blackout, the vehicle is said to be able to supply 10 days' worth of electricity for a family of 4 on a full tank of gasoline.
I want to ask you about green cars. Your company is one of the leaders in this area, and with various types being introduced in the industry, there's big interest in what direction you're planning to go in. So, which area do you believe will see the biggest growth, and how do you plan to address this market?
I believe it's very unlikely for one technology to solve every environmental problem in every country. Electric vehicles won't solve everything, and fuel cell cars won't solve everything. We're more likely to see several technologies coexisting. In this scenario, fuel cell cars or plug-in hybrid EVs or electric cars will be used for different purposes depending on the region or environment. The coexistence of separate technologies, I believe, is the shape of the future.
By strengthening its production system in the ASEAN region and through its selection and focus on SUVs and environmental technologies, Mitsubishi Motors is paving its own road to growth. The World Assembly for Women 2014, held under Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's initiative to create a society in which women shine. An international conference to discuss policies for the empowerment of women.
I am determined to make the 21st century a world with no human rights violations against women. WOW is one step towards making that pledge a reality.
We are glad, as the Prime Minister indicated, that we are going to have a home in Tokyo.
More than 100 panelists from 24 countries and 6 international organizations discussed measures to promote the role of women in society. Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida, who chaired the roundtable, issued a final proposal.
WOW will be held again next year. Now is the time for Japan and the world to take serious action.
World Assembly for Women in Tokyo 2014.
Tomorrow never ends with you. With you, it won't. When the morning falls, we there so long. Well, I know we'll never.
For life's greatest moments. Bridgestone.
You're watching Channel Japan. Next, we have a report from TV Tokyo's World Business Satellite. So, Utsuda-san, what do we have?
Yes, this time we'll be looking at how you can turn your spare time in your daily life into a business.
My spare time into money? I'm very curious.
Yes, and the business we'll be looking at will allow office workers as well as homemakers to put their special skills or professional know-how to work when they have free time. So, for example, homemakers can register with housekeeping services agencies and do jobs such as cleaning or cooking when they are not busy doing other things.
Well, that sounds like a good scheme. Many people have skills or qualifications that they aren't able to fully utilize, and if you can get paid for them, so much the better.
I agree. So what kinds of skills are people putting to work and how are they bringing in extra income? Take a look.
A condominium in Suginami Ward, Tokyo. This is Tomoko Kawaguchi, a homemaker. After sending her husband off to work and finishing up with household chores, she finally gets some time for herself. But at a little past 3 in the afternoon, she's already busy preparing dinner. She puts the vegetables she's chopped up into plastic bags, and then puts them in her bag.
I don't want to go through the day just spacing out. I'd rather be doing something.
Carrying a bag full of ingredients, Ms. Kawaguchi heads to a certain place. She visits the home of Yuki Tanaka, who lives alone. He works as a systems engineer for a foreign securities firm. On this day, he returned home in the early evening and begins working at his desk from 8 p.m. During that time,
Do you have any requests for dinner? These are the choices.
in Ms. Kawaguchi's notebook is a list of dishes.
Today, I think I'll go with my favorite.
Ms. Kawaguchi actually uses her time off from housework to go to other homes to cook meals. She may not be as skilled as a professional restaurant chef, but she has a knack for home-style cooking and even teaches classes. In just 1 hour, she whips up 5 dishes. In addition to the food she prepared at home, she serves a total of 14 dishes. For a week's worth of breakfast and dinner, she receives 7,500 yen, or about $63, which includes the cost of ingredients.
Thank you. It's delicious. Thank you.
Mr. Tanaka used to buy pre-prepared food at the supermarket, but worried about his health, he decided to hire Ms. Kawaguchi.
Even at restaurants, they don't serve you this many vegetables. The dishes she makes all seem very healthy.
After cleaning up, she heads home.
Using my free time, doing what I like, and getting paid for it? I'm really enjoying it.
Ms. Kawaguchi uses the website of housekeeping services agency Anytimes. The company provides various housekeeping services, such as cooking and cleaning, through people with free time, such as homemakers who register on the site. Registration is free, and once a contract is signed, the person who provides services pays a 15% commission to the company. As actual transactions are between individuals, they say the cost of services is lower than a typical housekeeping provider. The website operator Anytimes is an entrepreneurial venture set up in 2013. With about 700 registrants, including homemakers and retirees, they act as an agent for those wanting to utilize their free time.
With contract or part-time work, you're bound in terms of time and location. By allowing people to work when they have time in a place of their choosing, we've been able to draw out untapped demand.
Expecting even greater demand, the company is also developing an easier-to-use smartphone application. Moves to sell free time are spreading even among office workers. Hitoshi Kamada works as a computer programmer at an IT firm in Tokyo. On his day off, he visits a cafe in Roppongi.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kamada.
Mr. Kamada teaches computer programming here. He's meeting Mr. Suzuki, his student, for the first time.
Here, you basically rewrite it. The rest is the same. I'm leveling up.
The fee for the 30-minute lesson on this day is 1,000 yen. He was able to finish a software program to load files to his computer.
I met him for the first time today, but he was very accommodating and considerate when teaching me. I also like that I can choose the day and time.
Their lesson was arranged by a website that allows office workers and others to sell their free time in 30-minute slots. In addition to programming, there are also people who use their free time to give lessons on subjects such as sales techniques or setting up a company. When a contract is signed, they pay a 30% commission to the company, so the actual income is not that great. But
it's a way of offering the value you have to others, a way of expanding your career and improving your skills.
The website was created by Daisaku Yamamoto, the president of Lei, an entrepreneurial venture. He says the office workers who sign up can not only earn a side income, but also find out how applicable and in demand their abilities are in society.
Business people use our site as a step towards becoming independent. They test if their skills are marketable and sufficient to start their own business. By selling our time tickets, they can find out what their market value is.
Another scheme allows people to sell their free time without leaving home. Emi works as a dental hygienist in Tokyo and recently signed up to a website called Cafe Talk, an agency providing lessons in yoga, chess, and other hobbies. Emi is registered as a pen writing instructor.
I used to study calligraphy, but haven't been able to put that skill to use. So if there's somebody who wants to learn, I'd be happy to share my skill. That's why I started this.
Students send writing samples to her email address. The practice text was also created by Emi. During evenings on weekdays and weekends, she instructs her students using Skype.
You're holding the pen wrong. If you write using just your wrist, you can only move like this and can't write straight.
Do I put my elbow down?
It'll be easier to write if your elbow is outside the desk area.
Emi is actually a highly skilled calligrapher, so much so that a piece she did in school was displayed at the National Museum of Art. She hadn't made any money using those skills. But now she pulls in about 50,000 yen a month.
I don't have to cut short the time I sleep or go out. I really only use the time I'm free. Being able to do this at home fits into my lifestyle.
The company says usage is concentrated between 8 and 11 in the evening. Those who want to teach and those who want to learn. The business of allowing people to use their free time effectively and efficiently is expanding.
Tokyo Skytree. This is the grand panoramic view from 450 meters. Here you experience the unforgettable. Look, enjoy, be amazed, and be awestruck. That's what Tokyo Skytree is all about. Japan's latest landmark, Tokyo Skytree.
Man, look at all these cars.
Hey, have you heard, by the way? The Japanese company Kobelco is working to make the world's cars lighter.
So what does that mean?
Kobelco is using aluminum and steel technologies to make car parts and bodies lighter around the world.
Ah, Japanese technology. The country of karate. Ha! Ha! Ha!
Why do we always do that?
I don't know.
The talk of the world. Kobelco. We do our jobs with sincerity and integrity to make a better living environment for the people and our society. Today's work, tomorrow's heritage. Shimizu Corporation.
So, what's next?
Yes, next we look at how Japanese medical technologies are pushing into overseas markets.
Well, I had an impression that Japan is a big exporter of medical technology.
I agree, that is the impression, but it's actually a small fraction of total exports if you take a look over here. Yes. This is the trade balance of the Japanese medical industry in 2012, and in medical devices, as you can see, there was a trade deficit of about 700 billion yen, or about $6 billion, while in pharmaceuticals, the deficit was about 2.7 trillion yen, a big gap.
Well, I know that the government designated medical technology as one of their new growth industries under its economic strategy. Right?
Yes, you're right. And given aging populations across the globe and rising demand for medical services in emerging markets, the Japanese government set a target of doubling exports of medical devices from 2012 levels to 1 trillion yen by 2020.
I see. So what kind of policies are being put into place to reach that goal?
Well, last year they revised the Pharmaceutical Affairs Law and also deregulated the medical device manufacturing industry so that companies starting up can simply register rather than going through a cumbersome approval process. And that's made it easier for small and mid-sized firms to, with expertise in manufacturing, to more easily enter the field. And we have a report on the latest moves in the industry. And we should warn you that some of the footage may be graphic.
A medical entrepreneurial venture in Yokohama. Ortho Rebirth was established in 2011 and has 6 employees. It developed a technology that could potentially revolutionize bone regenerative medicine.
It's a cotton wool-like synthetic bone, and after it's introduced into the body, all of the material can replace a patient's own bone.
The synthetic bone developed by the company is called Rebosis. It comprises of materials that make up human bones, such as calcium and phosphorus, and has a cotton wool-like structure. Synthetic bone is used to replace bone lost because of a fracture, and also to fill in holes drilled to remove tumors. Until now, synthetic bone has been formed from square blocks that are grinded and shaped to fit the affected area. A time-consuming and complex process. Conversely, small grain-like synthetic bone was considered problematic as it could spill out. The cotton wool-like bone developed by Ortho Rebirth is said to be easy to fill into affected areas. What's more,
essential for synthetic bone are spaces where cells that serve as the core of the bone can enter. Because of the cotton wool-like structure, our product has many spaces, so it's extremely effective in bone therapy.
synthetic bone is resorbed within the body over time and regenerates into new bone. The cotton wool-like rebosis is designed so that the bone-making material is quickly resorbed by the body to speed up the regenerative process. Ortho Rebirth developed its own technique of spraying the synthetic bone material onto an alcohol solution. That allowed the company to successfully create a cotton wool-like form. Ortho Rebirth president Yasutoshi Nishikawa is a former management consultant. Hearing that a company researching this technology would be pulling the plug on development, he decided to acquire it and set up his own business.
That the product is the first in the world to offer this possibility was a major factor. I was also quite impressed with the strength of Japanese technology and felt it could be turned into a business.
And because approval in Japan would take significant time and financial resources, the company acquired certification in the United States first. Sales in the U.S. kicked off in January.
The US market is worth 40 billion yen. We're aiming for a 10% share. We really hope that can be a gateway for Japanese technologies to expand across the world.
A major factor behind walking difficulties among the elderly is the pain caused by the cartilage in the knee joints wearing away. Research is underway to solve that problem. Riken developed a special gel material that absorbs external pressure. The institute is working on using the gel to create synthetic knee cartilage.
If we can develop something that allows a person to carry out the same movement under greater strain and harsher conditions, we believe we may be able to make a significant contribution to an extremely big problem in this aging society.
In addition to being subject to a weight of several tens of kilograms, knee joints rub against each other and wear away every time a person walks. Even in the case of artificial joints, they come under significant pressure and are said to last only 15 to 20 years. But by using this gel as the material for synthetic cartilage,
in a vertical direction, it won't break even if it's subject to a force of 2 tons per square meter. Horizontally, it moves extremely flexibly, as you can see.
Footage of an experiment shows that even when the base swings from left to right, the gel moves horizontally, absorbing the motion, and the ball on top doesn't roll over. By using this gel that's resistant to vertical force, while absorbing horizontal force, the company believes there's a possibility that the life of synthetic knee joints can be significantly lengthened. Contained inside this gel are actually numerous layers of thin titanium sheets. The sheets all have electrical properties and by repelling each other become stronger against vertical pressure. Riken is aiming to leverage this characteristic to commercialize a long-lasting synthetic bone.
We still need to improve various aspects of this, including its durability and biocompatibility. It's especially common for the elderly to start losing strength once they aren't able to walk anymore. Walking is a basic condition. It's an extremely important component of a human being. This material might be able to offer some hope.
Research is also being carried out into another unprecedented technology to significantly reduce the strain caused by heart surgery. Professor Takao Someya of the University of Tokyo has developed a technology to make ultra-thin and flexible electronic circuits.
For example, if you stick this device on the surface of the heart, it's possible to read very high-quality electric signals from the heart.
The electronic circuit he developed is just 2 micrometers, a fifth of the thickness of plastic wrap used in the kitchen. Electricity can flow through even if it's rolled up or squeezed. The professor is currently working on applying these circuits to sensors used in fields such as heart surgery.
We've attached this new device to the heart of a rat and are able to accurately measure electric signals from the heart, even when there's dynamic movement.
For example, in heart surgery for myocardial infarction, it's said to be difficult to pinpoint where the abnormality is as the heart continues to beat. But by covering the heart with this ultra-thin sensor, he believes it may be possible to determine the area quickly and accurately. That would significantly reduce the time needed for surgery and the strain on the patient.
In terms of exploring new applications that take advantage of the thinness or durability, rather the thinness and durability, we've continued to be a leader in this field. We want to tie that into medicine and use electronics technology in an area that's truly at the heart of human happiness.
The professor hopes that by implanting this sensor into patients, he will eventually be able to build a health management system capable of monitoring ailments such as diabetes 365 days a year. Medical technologies born in a country where the population continues to gray. In the future, they may bring hope to people around the world.
After the break, we have a new episode from Takumi.
Omron is a company like no other. It defines expectations because engineers are constantly working on something new. Machines that are attuned to the way people think and move. Therein lies technology that will one day help the future. We automate. Omron.
Because we believe cities are about people. Mori Building.
Mitsui & Company.
Channel Japan. Your source for the voices and views of people and businesses across Japan. The latest reports on Japanese companies, culture, and technology. Find out what's happening on the ground. Every week, direct from Tokyo, Channel Japan.
You're watching Channel Japan. Next, we bring you a segment called Takumi from Science View, a program produced by NHK that introduces the latest development in science and technology in Japan.
Yes, now Takumi literally means artisan in Japanese, and it's a word often used to describe a person with exceptional skill in a certain craft, a master technician.
So, who's our Takumi today?
Yes, today it's a craftsman of bubbles.
bubbles.
Yes, and they're not regular bubbles, of course, but something called micro-nano bubbles. And they're less than 50 micrometers in size. And a strand of human hair is about 60 to 120 micrometers thick. So that shows just how extremely small the bubbles are.
Yes, so what's the purpose of that?
We'll be showing you that. But one thing you can say is that bubbles being that small, they can generate a surprising effect. And we have a report on a company that makes these micro-nano bubbles. So take a look.
Hi, Michelle. The Takumi or innovator I want to introduce to you today makes these. The Takumi makes small bubbles so tiny that they can barely be seen with the naked eye. But what are they for? Well, let's go and find out.
Kama City, Fukuoka Prefecture is home to a well-known industrial pump manufacturer that's been in business for over 60 years. Our Takumi today is Nobutaka Matsumoto. Let's take a look at the product he developed.
This is it. This whitish liquid contains tiny bubbles called micro-nanobubbles. We have succeeded in producing them en masse.
Inside the glass float countless tiny bubbles. These are called microbubbles, each only 1/100th of a millimeter in diameter. The glass also contains even smaller bubbles invisible to the naked eye called nanobubbles. Less than 100 nanometers in diameter, they are even smaller than the influenza virus. These two sizes of bubbles are collectively known as micro-nanobubbles. This is the device Matsumoto developed to create his micro-nanobubbles. When it's switched on, the liquid in the tank quickly turns a cloudy white. It is producing masses of micro-nanobubbles. The microscopic size of these bubbles actually gives them a unique property.
Due to their extremely small size, they float to the surface incredibly slowly.
In fact, the smaller the bubble, the slower it rises. While large bubbles float straight up to the surface, micro-nanobubbles drift around, rising at a leisurely pace. Some travel as slow as 3 millimeters a minute. In fact, these slow-moving bubbles are used to do a very specific job. This device was developed to test their effectiveness at doing that job. At the top of the device is a huge tank filled with water. Nothing unusual so far. When it is turned on, micro-nanobubbles flood into the tank. After a few minutes, the water has turned white with all the bubbles. On closer inspection, dirt can be seen floating around in the water too. The micro-nanobubbles are pushing the dirt up to the surface. Because micro-nanobubbles drift around and rise slowly, they're more likely to bump into the dirt floating in the water than larger bubbles. The micro-nanobubbles produced by this device are also given a negative electric charge, so they are attracted to the dirt, which is positively charged. Now to clean the water, all you have to do is skim the surface. Micro-nanobubbles are used to clean water in places like factory water treatment facilities and pearl farm hatcheries. This method is also environmentally friendly since no chemicals are used, just bubbles. But that's not all. These bubbles also have another use.
By injecting ozone gas, we can make ozone micro-nanobubbles.
Ozone is highly chemically active and has the ability to break down organic substances. Ozone micro-nanobubbles are used in places like dye works to remove dyes from wastewater. It was once considered difficult to produce micro-nanobubbles in large quantities and a consistent size. Our Takumi's device made it possible to do both. Let's see how it works. First, water and air are fed into the device. Then a rotating blade applies pressure, causing the air to dissolve. Then in a separate cylinder-shaped tank, the bubbles are produced by lowering the pressure and passing the water through fixed holes. The key to this device are the holes in the tank where the bubbles are produced. The size and the angle of the holes need to be just right in order to produce micro-nanobubbles. Matsumoto spent 2 years making prototypes before he finally came up with his current model. His final product, a compact, easy-to-operate device that produces micro-nanobubbles in large quantities.
I am happy if I can contribute, even in a small way, to society by developing a new technology, finding a use for it, and then incorporating it in a viable product.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Channel Japan. We have much more in store for you, so join us again next time.